in my opinion, nothing greater than kind of being the controlling your own destiny. Everything's under your own steam. And so if you're on your own, just know that everything that you do, growing your own business is going to be for you, and it's going to be for your family. It's going to be for your team, and so you have this chance, this like amazing opportunity to do whatever it is that you want with it. And it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of hard work, but you have a tribe of people that are around that can help you and you can get great guidance. And this is not like unpaved territory. This is territory that people have climbed Everest before. Okay. And if people have climbed Everest, they know the path.
Welcome to Great Practice, Great Life by Atticus Incorporated. What if you could hang out with successful small and solo law firm attorneys, ask them about their successes and failures, their business strategies and mindset habits, then take an insight or two to guide your own growth in your practice? Each week, Steve Riley shares an in-depth look at how to work less while maintaining high client service standards, reduce your stress levels while growing your income, and find time to make changes when you are time-starved. Steve is a lawyer coach for more than 20 years and a former trial attorney. His goal is to provide strategies to help you balance your lives and grow your practice. Now, here's Steve.
Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I have an esteemed trial lawyer here, Eric Rosen. So, Eric, thanks for joining us on the episode.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about today.
I like it. There's a lot of things I want to talk to you about, but a couple things. I just want a framework for everybody. Where you practice, talk to everybody a little bit about your practice. We'll absolutely put LinkedIn profiles and your website in the show notes, so those will be there. But just give us a few minute background about your practice.
All right. Briefly, I'm a double board certified civil trial lawyer here in South Florida, and I practice personal injury law, medical malpractice. We really focus on car accidents, motorcycle, pedestrian, any type of accident causing injuries. And we have an unbelievable team here. I worked with another law firm for about 11 years, kind of being their litigation trial lawyer on the front lines, and decided in January of 2020, just before the pandemic hit, without having any idea what was going to happen, to open up my own firm, my own personal injury firm, and venture out and just build my own team. And it's been a wild ride ever since. And that's it. We've just have continual growth year over year, despite the pandemic. And it's been extremely, extremely cool and rewarding.
Now, where do you practice?
Yeah, so Fort Lauderdale, Davie, Florida, in that South Florida area. But we take cases all throughout Florida. We're licensed to practice throughout Florida. So we have cases from Tallahassee to Jacksonville to Orlando, Naples, across the entire state. But a lot of our cases primarily are down in Miami-Dade, Broward, and then Palm Beach County.
Makes sense. I mean, with your background and your expertise traveling throughout the state, if not the country, is not a big deal.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. You're double board certified. What are your certifications in?
So it's 2 board certifications in civil trial law. So I have a Florida Bar board certification, and then I'm board certified by the National Board of Trial Advocates, both in civil trial.
That's very badass. It's a huge accomplishment. That's a very, very rare percentage. I'd probably put you in the upper 2% or upper 1% to be double board certified like that.
I think that specific certification would be less than 1% of lawyers across, well, certainly less than 1% in the state of Florida. It might even be, it's extremely low. The country, I would also say I think it'd be under the 1% mark. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that's amazing about you that I was talking about, and let's just talk about your great practice for a few minutes. One of the things that's amazing to me about you is that you've not got 100 million in settlements, but 100 million in verdicts. So that's quite an accomplishment. So that's a huge trial lawyer. I would say check the box for being incredibly competent, incredibly skilled, and incredibly good. So well done.
And I appreciate that. I happen to be fortunate to fall into an area where there was a bunch of big cases and the defendant was a massive corporation and they didn't want to settle cases. And I ended up kind of getting on the front line of just trying case after case and getting big verdicts. And so it was, I look back, as it's been a little bit of time since all those verdicts got racked up, but it was a perfect storm and it ended up working out really well.
So when you decided to open up your practice, you've got the certifications. I mean, your practice is relatively young, things considered. How many lawyers do you work for you right now?
Yes, so we've grown. We have a total of 4 lawyers, including me. So 4 lawyers,
Perfect.
and then a staff. We have it set up kind of in teams, individual teams, really, with the paralegals and the legal assistants, and then kind of everyone else working together.
Perfect. 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 Now, I want to spend a few minutes. We've talked just briefly about your background, kind of the great practice dynamic. I'm going to do a deeper dive with you on some of your experiments with marketing. But before we go there, talk to me about your great life. What are you doing right now to make sure that you're not burning yourself out, running yourself into the ground? What are you doing to protect yourself, protect your relationships with your family? How are you trying to create a life balance for yourself?
So that's one of the things that I appreciate about Atticus was really to have that great life template, that roadmap, which is something I had never done before. I'd been a guy where when I'm making a big decision, like when I'm going to leave my prior law firm, I kind of did like a pros and cons list, right? But I didn't put the what's the plan for the future. And something I saw something one time. It was a quote and it said, "Build your dreams, or else someone's going to hire you to build theirs." And that hit hard. It hit really hard. And so when I opened up my own firm, and I did actually reach out to Atticus because I really wanted I needed some guidance, having that roadmap and then having the plan of you got to design something that, you're not just working for the business all the time. The business is working for you too, you know? And so I wanted to design something, and I think we put it into place where you have great people so that I can step back and really focus on the things that I really enjoy, and you have team members that are focusing on the things that they enjoy. And that's really the great life, is to have the time and the freedom to do the things that you like, while still being able to earn and make a living and live comfortably. So
Well, that's the ironic thing about it for me, kind of the paradox. The lawyers that actually focus more and more on having that great life approach, philosophy in their practice usually grow faster and usually make more money because they have interest outside of their practice. They're not sucked into the practice. They're actually trying to find things outside the practice that motivate them, excite them, and give them reason to delegate more, strategically think differently, and really grow the practice without them being at the center of it. So it's a fantastic approach. What are you doing in the past couple of years? What have you done that you think reinforces your vision of what a great life looks like to you?
if you just look at the template that we talked about, and it's kind of funny because I work with my coach from Atticus in the past with it, but like you look at what's a year look like, what's 3 years look like, what's 5 years look like, and then as you see those goals happening, you're just blown away. Like I keep seeing, and almost like ahead of time too. But reading a lot of books and things, and kind of obviously taking the guidance from your team, but putting systems in place that allow the firm to thrive without me having to do all the work, all the legal work, right? All like I don't have to be at every client meeting. I don't have to be, filing every motion myself. I've tried to design it where it's kind of like that E-Myth Revisited book where you talk about there's different people in each firm. There's going to be the minders, the finders, the grinders, whatever the different terms are that you use, the entrepreneur. I've I've really looked at myself as, hey, let me guide the team for a specific amount of time each week on cases, and then me focus on the marketing and the business and the entrepreneur side of things the majority of the time. And so that's really what I've tried to do, is spend a ton of my time being more of the rainmaker, more of the visionary, while at the same time making sure that the cases are moving forward. And so that's kind of how I've set it up. I've found great people to come and support the cases, and I've put together core values for the team, principles, a vision, a mission, and that's something that I think has helped the firm grow.
Let me ask you this question. The shift that you had to go through when you opened up your practice had to be a very significant mental mindset shift, because being double board certified, having the trials that you've done, you had to jump from using the E-Myth terminology, a technician, to an entrepreneur. you had to think through, okay, if I'm, you know, if I'm not living my great life or building my great practice, I'm being enrolled or paid to help someone else do theirs. What was a major shift? What was the thinking? What was it that gave you confidence and the impetus to make a change then?
I would say, I think so. At the time when I left, I wasn't double board certified. I did have my certification in Florida, from Florida, but I had tried a lot of cases. I had built confidence in my skill, and that's something that I always wanted. I wanted to say to myself before I left any place where I was going to go, I wanted to say I can go up against anybody, any law firm, any lawyer, and hold my own and win, and walk into any courtroom against anybody. And that's when I got to that point. There was a book that I read, and it was by Tim Ferriss, called Tools of Titans. And that was the first seed that was planted where, it's a kind of a compilation. It's a big book, but there's segments in there that just talk about this excitement of being an entrepreneur, of a startup, of kind of building your own, being your own marketer. So that was what lit the fire. And then, when I made that jump, I actually left my firm. I didn't have any cases. I didn't take any cases with me, which was, it was good. I was going to start from the ground up. I left and I took my paralegal with me. I had made enough money where I could say I can invest in myself, and I have enough money to bring a paralegal with me, but I was going to have to find cases. And I'll be honest, I had a lead on some tobacco cases at the time, but they weren't signed. And so I took that risk, and then the pandemic hit, and the world shut down. And in retrospect, and even at the time, it was the best possible thing that could have happened to me at that moment, because it really allowed me to become a student again of marketing, of managing, of being an administrator, and kind of setting aside the technician of being a litigator and a trial lawyer, setting it aside, and then trying to learn, what is social media? Where do you get cases? What's digital marketing? What's search engine optimization? What's building a referral network? And that's really was where the change shifted, was definitely during the pandemic. But that's where the fire came from. And then I had the opportunity to actually execute it during that time where we were all kind of confined.
Got it. So you're like completely confident. I got my legal skills down. Now I have to go develop the business skills, and the business skills are going to allow me to really grow and get the cases in. And I've got to learn all these different business skills that most lawyers don't take the time or really develop at all. And that's one of the things that you focused on during the pandemic. Makes a lot of sense to me. You had an opportunity to catch your breath, think about it, do some deep diving. And as a trial lawyer or any attorney, you read, analyze, think, comprehend, execute. So it gave you a kind of a chance to put your battle plan together.
But I want to, I'll point something out also, and this is important for anyone that's watching, is that the firm that I came from, they happen to be students of Atticus as well, right? And this is what's amazing, is that there was at least a foundation that I had before I left of, having a weekly Friday meeting with the team, having an agenda, having these routine meetings on, finances, and kind of just having, like, I had touched upon it already. So there was already, leaving there, with the legal skills that I had, I also at least had some foundation of, hey, like, this is the direction a business should be. This is how a business kind of should be run. And again, I really knew very, very surface, and especially marketing was nothing. If I brought in, one or every so often, I'd get a case that would come in and we'd probably decline it because it wasn't big enough at the time, so that was a big change. But at least having that foundation, the Atticus foundation, was I think a huge, support for me going out on my own.
Well, you were brilliant. You were brilliant in the fact that you took advantage of it. I've seen a lot of lawyers that leave firms that have got the Atticus support structure, the Atticus community, the Atticus coaching, and they leave and like, I'm not going to do any of that Atticus crap because that drove me crazy. And then 2 or 3 years later, they reach out to us and go, that Atticus crap I didn't want to do? Yeah, I think I need it. So it's always fun to watch that progress, I guess, their development. So I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about marketing, because it's one of the skills that you've developed a real passion for. It's something that you've really mastered and you're continuing to master. So talk to me about how you market it or experiment with marketing in your practice, and talk to me a little bit about what's not working for you and what's working for you?
So there's a number of different buckets that I look at for marketing, and and it's funny because it's like if there's a young lawyer that's out there, it's like I always wish I would just listen to my own advice that I would have told that I tell somebody else. You know what I mean? It's like, why don't I just keep doing that? But listen, there's I think digital marketing is huge, and whether it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or creating just constant content creation is really important. And I know a lot of lawyers they avoid it, and they also say, well, how am I going to get a case? I spent all this amount of time and money on doing, no one's going to get into a car accident and see that and call me. And maybe they're just looking at it the wrong way. I don't do it like for that. I do it to kind of stay top of mind with other lawyers and other people who already know me. And that's been a huge way that we bring in cases. But then I think also that ties into all that social media stuff is building relationships with other lawyers. Atticus always had. I always remember this idea of having a farm team or a top 20 source of referrals, and then kind of growing that out. And I don't like to look at it as like networking. I like to look at it as more of like having a relationship and building a relationship with different people. And so I've spent a lot of time trying to build a a group of people that are kind of in a like-minded, and we are able to go out and have a good time together. And if they send a case, great. If they don't, they don't. And I at least know that if someone calls me up and it's outside my practice area, I could send it to them. So I've really spent time with in person. Whether it's lunch or it's having events. I think those are really really successful. And then obviously you have your digital marketing, your search engine stuff, your Google stuff. Each of these areas, they have to be nurtured, and they have to constantly be readdressed. Like pay per click, for instance, to me is just a disaster. Is some people love it, but I've learned my lesson. I can burn through $20,000 in a month and not see a single phone call, and it's like, how many times do you have to do that to know that's not a good use of your time? Why not take that $20,000 and buy 20 people a really great gift? They're going to remember you, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's interesting. So for you, it's the traction you're getting sounds like it's more referral based marketing, and the things that you're doing on social media is more for top of mind awareness, supporting the.
Yeah,
Where do you get your best cases from? You think?
best cases, like without a doubt, come from referral sources. That's for sure. And
Okay.
I wouldn't say the majority of our cases come from referral sources. We do have pretty strong organic online stuff that we do get, the phone call from someone who's just been in an accident. But I can easily look back and track the biggest cases that we get, the cases that settle for the most money from other lawyers that have either that I keep touching them via social media. They keep seeing me, and they say, "Oh, Eric, give them a call," or it's they're part of the group, or they're part of a network, and those cases, they tend to be the biggest, the most valuable cases.
It makes sense. I got a couple of questions for you on the referral marketing side. Okay.
Yeah,
You shifted a couple of ways when you start to market. I shouldn't say you. I've seen other lawyers shift, and you jumped ahead of the curve. I think a lot of lawyers, when they go out and market, they're like, okay, I want to go out and I want to meet people who send me cases. And then they realize, well, that's not particularly effective because it's all about just send me cases. Then they shift to how can I contribute and help other people? Then they shift to doing what you're doing, which is building more of a community and lifelong relationships. And that's probably the most for me, the most valuable approach and the most valuable mindset when it comes to thinking about referral relationships. Because you're really not saying, hey, send me cases. You're saying, hey, I'd like to establish a relationship with people. And you're looking for, and I think the term you used was like minded people. And you're aligning yourself with lawyers, which makes perfect sense to me because when I was practicing, my best cases came from other lawyers because they filter through all the junk. And when they learned more about my specialty and what I did really well, they were able to refine a great case and refer it in. So the more lawyers I knew, the more lawyers that I developed a top of mind awareness, like what you're doing via social media, the more valuable cases I had. And I kind of started thinking about it more and more like a portfolio, like an investment portfolio. And I really realized it was more like a referral community. And the more people I had part of my community, the more people I added that were in line with my value system, the happier I was in those relationships. So it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, hey, please send me a case. It was more like these were really great people that I enjoyed hanging out with. And oh, yeah, there was a business component to it. It seems like you went through that arc, that learning arc pretty quickly. I mean, is that a fair statement?
I think I probably skipped over, and this is just the way I'm thinking of it. Skipped over the first one, which is, hey, send me cases. Like I want to be your person. I think for me, it went from kind of letting everyone know, hey, I'm opening up my own firm, right, and going out, and then that would have to kind of be a blast on social media, and then I don't necessarily remember so much of like setting up meetings and having contact. But what happened with me, and it was almost by mistake, and it ended up working to my benefit, was I had hired someone to help with some digital marketing, online, pay-per-click stuff, and they had absolutely no idea what they were doing. And so I ended up spending a bunch of money. And what happened was we weren't getting phone calls for personal injury cases. We were getting phone calls for family law and for divorce and for,
Right.
you name criminal defense. I mean, it was like I'm pumping money into this machine and I'm getting all these phone calls. And I'm like, I don't know any, like, I need to know people to get these to, you know what I mean? And so as these cases are coming in, I start reaching out to people that I know and I start to send them out. And then more cases are coming in. And so I was like, well, let's just like create a group of people. That was kind of what clicked and was like, hey, let's create a group of people where instead of going onto a Facebook group and it's a popularity contest, let's kind of vet them ourselves. Let's see who we know and actually meet with people. Um, and that's kind of what ended up happening was I started this, I called it the referral network, and just did a bunch of video content about it, and people started signing up immediately, like right away. We just had this huge group of lawyers with their practice areas, and I just started sending those cases out, and then that kind of dovetailed into, hey, I like these people, a lot of them that are more local. Let's go out, let's put together an event, let's do this, let's do that, and like I said, I've never looked at it like, hey, send me a case. It's always been I want to help them grow. And then and then what we did was we kind of expanded to the podcast that we do in my office. I love interviewing other lawyers for their practice area and then creating content and promoting it on my stuff, giving them the content. And it was like a fun time. I just had a bankruptcy lawyer here in the office yesterday. And, listen, I don't know whether I'll get a case from him or not, but we got to hang out. I got to know the guy. He's got a great business model, and you also have the chance to meet with other people who are going to help you learn to grow. There's a saying, you're the average of the people that you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with good people. And so that's kind of what the network has been, has become, is really getting to that third step of nurturing and building these relationships with other lawyers who are growing a business, who are working hard, and who also want that great life.
Hi, it's Steve. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but if you're new to Atticus and you're listening to our podcast and you don't understand how a practice advisor works, in this particular case, you're listening to an interview that features a practice advisor who's really coaching and advising someone how to grow their practice. If you're curious on how to work with a practice advisor, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and I'm going to give you a complimentary, no-charge practice growth diagnostic. So you can talk to one of our membership directors about how to work with a practice advisor. That if you've never had the opportunity to work one-on-one with one of our top flight practice advisors, I'm going to encourage you, as you listen to this episode, ask yourself, would somebody like this be able to help me and help me grow my practice and help me cultivate a great life? With that, thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. That's great. I think it was an old motivational speaker that started that statement. I think it was Charlie Tremendous Jones, that your future will be the average of the 5 people that you're hanging out with.
Well, that's good. That's a good
that was like a long, long time ago. So it was, yeah, I didn't see him, but I heard of him. So that's great. That's fantastic. So for you, you've really pivoted a lot of your focus, personal focus, to developing relationships with other like-minded lawyers and you're trying to send them work. You're trying to send them help. You're trying to connect with them. You're trying to bring them onto your podcast. You're trying to get them involved in your own social media. So your philosophy is really one of how can I help these other lawyers grow? And in the same time, you're hoping it will reflect back on you in some way, shape, or form. How can they help you grow, not only just as a lawyer, but as a person? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, there's that. And then, you know what? I missed one component of it, which I think is the best part, which kind of like it just gets out of your control completely, is that it's not even me sending them cases. It's the group of everyone getting together, and now they each know each other. And so constantly people will send me an email saying, "Hey, Eric, who's part of the group that does X, or who's part of the group that does Y?" Or, you know, they're building relationships on their own, or I'll see them, you know, on a social media post, they've gone out to dinner and they're hanging out together, you know. So it's bringing other people together is really important.
That's perfect. That's why I call it a community.
Yep.
One of the shifts you make away from how do I develop my referral sources, like you said, and then you actually start to build a community of like-minded people, and that community then kind of builds onto itself, and they start to reach out and add other people into the group. Really well done, Eric. Really, really
Yeah,
well
appreciate
done.
it.
Yeah, really well done. Who are you coaching with right now? Who's your coach?
It's Lori Pulvermacher.
Ah, that's terrific. She's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
No, she's
Absolutely fantastic.
outstanding, and she's a voice of reason, and it's always nice to be able to bounce ideas off of her and kind of get, you know, input and insight, and then also, you know, listen, there's so many different little things that I'm just not great at, you know, whether it's internal conflicts with maybe people in the office, or a personality issue with somebody, or whatever it may be. You know, it's kind of having someone to be able to bounce things off of, and really get an objective view on next steps.
I agree. Lori did a great podcast. I'll link the show notes here on why she loves conflict, which I really enjoyed. And I agree with you. It's one of the things I know I'm just totally annoyed with about her, that she is a voice of reason. When I think I've got this great idea, man, this is awesome. We should do this. And she says something logical and reasonable. And I'm like, yeah, never mind. Let's put that one in the trash can. That's probably not good for prime time. So let me ask you a little bit more about referral based marketing. So, as other lawyers of our audience are listening, what are 4 or 5 examples of referral based marketing, like activities you've done, things you've done with other lawyers that you thought were very productive, that you said, hey, if I was trying to grow a practice, regardless of the practice area, I would do this, this, and this?
So here's a couple things that just come to mind right away. And again, really, I think building relationships, it's hard. Like, I hate going out to like big networking events. If it's a bar association dinner and there's 100 people or 40 people, I mean, trying to keep the group small, you know, each group small, and sometimes it's hard because you have to exclude some people, but then they'll be at the next one. But we had an amazing event where we rented out like great seats at the hockey arena for one of the Panther games a few months back, and we just had this entire exclusive area, and uh, food's included, and you're on the ice, and just everyone just had a great time, and you just had this ability to have one-on-one time with each person, and you know, it's a memory that everyone's going to have, and they're going to know forever, you know. That was one event, and that was a great success. And then another one, um, a buddy of mine, he happened to have his wife's birthday at this restaurant that does, it's like this very private, exclusive tasting menu restaurant. It's not like a normal restaurant. Like, they just open it up to prepare like a 6 course tasting menu. And so I was like, this would be a perfect event for a small group, let's say 15 people, 20 people, and the chef comes out and they go through each plate. And I got this group together, and it was just an amazing event. You know, there's drinks, there's food, everyone's talking, there's a little bit of music. It was just such a fun time. And those are ones that, like, those, I just think of the group of people that are there that we just stay in touch with. An email comes in, a text message here or there, and we all kind of just, you know, keep seeing each other and stay in touch. And I think those kind of events, I think, are really a key to building the relationships.
Well, I like them because they're all leveraged events. And
Yeah.
if I notice, one's around sports, the other one's around food. So I like
Yes.
both of those, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
those, those are pretty straightforward. Um, has there ever been a referral based marketing strategy that you tried that just failed miserably? You're like, oh, that was terrible.
Failed miserably. I can't think of. I'm not thinking of anything right off the top of my head. I mean, one of the things I remember that I almost did that I backed out of, and I'm happy I backed out of it, was I wanted to create like a kind of like like a almost like a social media like get together where I can teach other people some of the social media stuff I was doing. And I still think it's a good idea. But what ended up happening is we booked it at like this karaoke bar, and it was just a weird place. And so I'm someone that will make decisions on, hey, like I if I'm getting a bad vibe, like we got to cancel it. So that ended up being like a fun thing for the office to do, but I think it would have been a disaster. I just didn't seem like it was going to be a success to do that event at the time with a group of lawyers and try to make the social media. Maybe a karaoke thing might work, but I backed out of it, and I just said that I really want something that wows people, and the dinner and the event wowed people. I have an idea in my mind right now. There's another kind of venue that's almost like a game kind of venue right over at the Hard Rock here that I'm going to put together. But something where everyone can get together and really have a good time, but then also not feel like embarrassed or, you know, put on the spot. I think the karaoke thing again, it never happened. Maybe it would have been a great success, if you get enough drinks in people, but I backed out of it.
I would back out of it. That I would be terrified of going to a karaoke event. That would not be something I would personally ever want to do. But I'm with you on it. I
Yo, we
think that
did
would
we did another event also, which I thought was fantastic, and it was an axe. There's a place. It's an axe throwing venue right near my office. I got a group of people. We probably had 20 people show up, 25 people. I also did it with a group of law students. Axe throwing. They got ping pong. They had pool. It's kind of like just this relaxed environment, and we catered it. That was a huge success. I mean, everyone's there. They're throwing axes. They're having a good time, and thankfully everyone stayed safe. I mean, I had everyone sign a release, but yes, we had a good time. So that was a good success also, man. I really don't want to put anything together that's going to fail.
Sure.
Obviously, no one wants to, but I think that those are those in-person events. I think there's other stuff that we've done which really wows people. Again, I think like coming up with unique gift ideas. No one wants to receive a mug with your logo on it. Okay, it's just that's the so what can you do for the people that are referring you cases, that network that's going to wow them, whether it's a personalized gift to them, really going above and beyond, spending a little bit of money too. Like I said, if you're willing to burn $20,000, $30,000 on pay per click in a month, imagine the amount of traction that you can get if you just allocated even part of that to like really nice gifts, whether it's a Ballard Dom Perignon or, and it could even be smaller. I mean, I know I was working with Patrick at Atticus. This was a good one. This was one of the best things that I did. And me and him, we brainstormed, and then I came up with the idea, but it was through our brainstorming of coming up with unique ideas during the pandemic. The idea was, hey, what can we do to stay in touch with all these people that we know and all these, we just opened the firm. And I found these s'mores kits that were being sold on Amazon. And I ended up buying, I think, 50 of these s'mores kits that had all the stuff in it. And I shipped it out to each person. And it was like every single person had this event. It was some kind of a family gathering around the campfire or whatever. And they were all making s'mores during that summer.
I love
Those little
that.
things I think are good. Really, really good.
Yeah, that's love. So everything you do is you're aiming for some type of unique experience. So everything I've listened to you doing, you're trying to get some kind of unique experience. So it's a significant step above, hey, let's get together and have drinks or let's get together and have dinner. Each thing you've tried to kick up one particular level, if that makes sense. Next question for you. When you look at a month or a quarter at a glance, how much time are you personally allocating towards your marketing activities? So if I look at a week or a month or a quarter, are you telling me 20% of my time's invested, 50% of my time, 60% of my time? How much time are you investing towards marketing activities?
I'd say 80%, 85.
80,
To me,
85%.
it's just a huge thing. If I'm not making videos, if I'm not making podcasts, if I'm not, thinking about, is the SEO working right? I think the firm's going to thrive if there's cases coming in. And as far as the cases we have, like the management of those cases, 15 to 20% of my time during the week of managing the teams and knowing everything that's going on and having great software to kind of know what's going on with your cases, I think that's sufficient, and then I kind of jump in. I don't know where I heard it from, but it was like the 10-80-10 rule. I forget where. I just read that somewhere, but it's like 10%. I'll think of the book. It was a book that I just was listening to, but what was it? Anyways, 10% is kind of either signing up the case, getting it situated, getting it ready to go, and now letting the team 80% run with it, and then 10% coming in and closing the deal,
Got it.
you're getting the
Yeah, that
case
makes sense.
resolved. Yeah, so that's the 10-80-10 rule as far as the cases are concerned, and that only really requires 20%, maybe less of my time each week. But the other, let's say 80, whether it's between 70 and 80%, I want to focus on marketing. The other might be a little bit of management, administrative stuff, that kind of thing.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you these questions, if that's all right. Um, how do you keep yourself focused during the week? Because you've got a lot of activities happening. How do you stay focused?
I stay focused because I have really good case management software. We use Filevine, and I'm very, very thrilled with it. It's set up in a way that makes it easy for me to know what's going on in all the cases, just so I feel comfortable. And then having a great team that I can rely on, and then really I'm able to peel back and kind of be more of a thinker, and also, it's just I guess I'm pretty good as far as time management. I keep my task list extremely low. I mean, that's how do you really manage your time, is being able to say no to a lot of stuff, right? Just and keeping your schedule clear to put the stuff on that you think is the most important. So that's really how I stay focused, is I don't look at emails all day long. I turn off I don't look at notifications on my phone. I kind of keep all that stuff off. I mean, these are some of the basic stuff as far as time management. Like I don't have a thing that pops up on my screen or on my phone that shows that someone's just emailed me. This way I batch stuff. I don't let the team knows in my office, like, it's like, hey, listen, if there's an emergency, come see me. But like, we batch everything. We have a Friday meeting. And so if there's stuff that Eric needs to, jump in or give his input, they put it on the list and we talk about it on Friday. So those are kind of a huge way of focusing, is batching stuff regarding cases, and then having the freedom to kind of, be fluid with what I want to do.
I love it. I love it. Because really what you're doing is trying to structure the focused activities in a very limited way. So you're saying 10 to 20% of my week will be organized in this particular way, batched, uh, whether it's meeting with team, meeting, on case issues, reviewing cases. Then the bulk of your time is really spent trying to bring in new work, develop new relationships, and grow the firm from an entrepreneurial perspective. So it's fascinating because you probably went from 90% trial lawyer, technician, 10% probably on the business side, to being more 10 to 20% trial lawyer, 80 to 90% on the business side. It's a huge flip. I mean, is that a fair comment?
If you look at my entire career, like if you look at me with the other law firm for the 11 years, but I think when I left there and I opened up my own firm, I came with the idea that, like, at the time when I opened up my own firm, and somehow I just got this, is that I needed someone that was helping me with the legal work. And so I had a strong paralegal. And so we would meet every morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom. Here's what we need to do for today. And then she'd be off doing that. And then I'd be watching YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos and how to make TikToks and how do you get the audio right? How do you get the lighting right? What camera do I need to get? And then all the other things with marketing. So I think I learned it. I think I made that decision early on. And again, I credit you guys, and I credit the E-Myth Revisited, because I read that book right away. And then I guess I also have to credit just good habits of being a trial lawyer. But yes, 100% of my time was being a litigator and the technician before I opened up my own business, and then immediately knowing I have to spend a lot more time on figuring out the business side of stuff. And so as we've grown, the more cases that were coming in, and I realized, okay, my hands are getting much more dirty in the cases. Now I need to hire a lawyer. And we did that very early on. We got another lawyer who was young and hungry and ready to, go. And she's my right hand, and she's just been unbelievable ever since. And as more cases come in. And that's another thing that, you guys taught me, which I think has just been huge, is that you got to hire before the storm comes, like hire with the anticipation that more cases are going to come in, like get the team together, not after it happened, when it's like you're bogged down and you're drowning and you're too late. It's kind of start anticipating, okay, there's going to be this growth. We need to bring in more people. And I see that just now. We just hired another pre-suit paralegal because we're just at a point where I know that the growth is there, and I don't want everyone drowning, and I don't want to, I don't want them to start drowning. So let's grow,
It's That's brilliant. The building for capacity is probably the biggest challenge that most lawyers have to really wrap their brain around, because they're like, I just don't have the cash. I'm afraid to invest the money. I'm afraid to spend the money. But what ends up happening is that if they don't build for capacity, they get overworked and overwhelmed, and they stop doing all the marketing. So all the stuff that you're currently doing to bring in better quality work would come to a halt. So it's a really brilliant move by yourself. And quite frankly, it requires a high level of trust to jump on that advice and hold on to it. It's interesting. I find you fascinating from the perspective that most lawyers that have the trial background or the technician background usually don't make such a quantum leap entrepreneurially. They usually suffer through 3 to 4 to 5 years of just hanging on to being a great technician before they make the business owner leap. What do you think was the difference for you? Was it the prior Atticus exposure? What was it? What do you think it was?
I think it's the prior Atticus exposure, but there's also, and I think there's a lot of people, and and a lot of it is financial. I think it's a big financial thing, is that they can't grasp giving up a big portion of what they're making, or a portion of what they're making, with the knowledge that that's only going to come back and make things better, right? And you're just going to grow, and ultimately you're going to get back to where you were. So, like, I just knew that, like, when I left my prior firm, is I was willing to invest, and I had a certain amount of money, whatever that number was, and it was a chunk of money that I'm willing to give to somebody else so that I can focus on some of these other things and help this other part grow. And I've continually always thought of that. It's like, if you put in your mind, like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice how much money I'm going to make right now to help to hire great people so that we have a team and everything's growing, it's ultimately going to come back. And so I think there are a lot of people, and they're, like you said, they're just overwhelmed, they're stressed, they're bogged down, they're working on all these cases. The cases aren't moving, and it's because they don't have other hands moving it so that they can focus on the more important stuff, which is obviously keeping the pipeline coming, the other cases coming in, helping as many people as possible. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it's just a switch of that mindset of just give up a little bit. You hear people like, I don't want to spend $60,000 on hiring a paralegal. Well, it's not 60,000 right now. It's going to be over the entire year. And that paralegal is going to take so much off of your plate. You know what I mean? And like, you're going to have so much of a relief of stress. It's like, me personally, I would rather make less money and be able to breathe and enjoy life than me grinding away, trying to do everything myself.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And I think the key word you said was invest. As I think about it, I had the pleasure of working with a plaintiff's lawyer who built a significant firm, 30 something attorneys, 300 staff, huge advertiser, the biggest in his state. And I asked him what the seminal moment was. What was the key moment? And at the time, he was very similar to you. He'd started off with himself and one paralegal. He had left a firm. He'd been trying cases, and he nailed a case. He nailed one really good verdict and got paid well. And the question was whether he took the money from that, bought a big house, a fancy car, a boat, and kicked back on his heels and just waited for the next big case, or if he took the money and doubled down and invested it in growing the practice and marketing and advertising. And he made the decision to grow. and he put in pretty much everything he made in that verdict, less taxes, obviously, and invested it back into his firm, hired staff, did a lot of advertising, did a lot of marketing, and over a period of 10 to 15 years, really built a massive firm that just grew, 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 grew. But the mindset of investment is similar. What you're saying is, I didn't see these people as a cost. I saw them as an investment, whether they're bringing me a rate of return financially, or if they're giving me room to breathe, giving me room to think, room to envision what's next. It's fascinating. I think your career at the prior firm, you paid attention, you studied, you were very, very diligent in applying what that firm was doing. And I think it gave you the ability to grow very, very quickly and very, very well. And I just want to compliment you. Your ability to shift your thinking, to shift your mindset is very quick, Eric. I've seen a lot of trial lawyers struggle. And when I say trial lawyers, $100 million verdicts is a huge accomplishment. The ability to shift your thinking, be very fluid, have an open mindset, a growth mindset, and shift so quickly. It's fascinating. I'm really going to be excited to see what you do next, because your thinking, your ability to jump is incredible. So really well done, man. Really, really well done. I got a couple other questions for you. You ready?
Yeah, yeah.
So there had to be some scary times when you opened up your practice. Like, Jesus, what was I thinking? I had this really great job at the other firm. I was trying cases. I'm really good at trying cases. Really well respected, pretty much a badass in the courtroom. But now I've opened up my own shop. At a certain point in time, you had to be really second guessing yourself. And the reason I'm asking you that is that somewhere in our audience is a lawyer who's just opened up their practice. They've left a firm, they've made a risk, they're investing in people, and they're totally, utterly terrified. What would you tell that lawyer?
I would tell that lawyer to, like you said, you have to double down, and you have to just, you're going to weather the storm, and things are going to improve. I don't know that I had this total second guessing um, time where I said to myself, "Oh, what did I do?" I always felt like it was the right decision. There were times where, listen, I left all my benefits. I forewent this whole like future stock thing that I had, or whatever it was, some future money that I was supposed to get in a couple of years. It was a lot of money. I I left all the health stuff. I left my corner office, and I remember, leaving there. And when I left and I opened up, I rented out this space in a buddy of mine's building, and I walked into this little dark office.
You're like, what
Like,
have I done?
and I didn't have like a printer. I didn't have a scanner. I mean, listen, I left having, a team of 10 people that was my support. And it was just me and my paralegal. And there was a moment where I said, man, what did I do? I don't have a window anymore. Like we had this, maybe I had this great thing there, but I felt confident that, this was for me, and I was going to build something myself. And so there's no greater, in my opinion, nothing greater than kind of being the controlling your own destiny. Everything's under your own steam. And so if you're on your own, just know that everything that you do, and growing your own business is going to be for you, and it's going to be for your family. It's going to be for your team, and so you have this chance, this like amazing opportunity to do whatever it is that you want with it. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of hard work, but you have a tribe of people that are around that can help you, and you can get great guidance. And this is not like unpaved territory. This is territory that people have climbed Everest before. Okay. And if people have climbed Everest, they know the path. And so you got Atticus, you got people like Atticus, you got other lawyers. Like you said, there's this guy who you worked with who's built this amazing firm, and they've written books. Open the book and read it, because there is a playbook, there is a guide. And I think if you follow it, and you put your heart, your heart and your soul into it, and you get a good team together, you're going to succeed. You're going to succeed. And you're also going to find, like I said, I've said it a couple times before. So maybe I knew I was not going to be making anywhere near the amount of money when on my short term of leaving that firm, but the possibilities were endless, and it was worth it to me. And it's still worth it to me to have something where me and you can sit and have this conversation, and I'm not worried about a thing. I'm not worried about the phone ringing. I'm not worried about emails coming in on a case. not stressed about a hearing that's on Friday. You know, you've found a place where you thrive and it's manageable and cases are moving forward, cases are getting settled, clients are super happy. You know, you have a team that's thrilled to show up at work. So if you're in that space, just, you know, put your head down and push forward, man. Put your blinders on. Don't worry about what the person to the right and left is doing. Just focus on you and your team and growing.
Eric, one of the things that you're committed to doing is building a client-centric practice. How do you believe that your mission statement, your vision statement shows up day to day in your case selection or in your active practice?
You know, listen, two of the main things really is for us, it's a relentless pursuit of justice and it's providing exceptional service. And so when I look at that, the relentless pursuit of justice, that means we fear no one. There's no adversary. And that's what I know, that I can walk into any courtroom on behalf of any client and step into the arena against the biggest law firms, the baddest corporations, and we can win. And so that's one of our core values, is a relentless pursuit of justice on behalf of our clients. And then exceptional service. For us, it doesn't matter whether it's a massive case, it's the most catastrophic injury, or it's a smaller case. We're going to provide exceptional service. We want the client to have a 5-star experience every time. We want to be able to answer their questions. If they call, we're communicating. If they need us, they just know that we're on their side. And so I can't think of anything more rewarding when a client trusts us to be their representation, to be there by their side. And I tell you, listen, I've sat in a courtroom, I can't tell you how many times, next to a client, and that person trusts me with so much, you know, and I'm able to get up and ultimately get them justice or a result or whatever it is that they want. And they know, and like, to me, that the fact that we're able to do that, you know, and on the biggest levels, um, it's unbelievable, you know. And so that's how we do things here.
That's fantastic because I can hear great life in part of it, part of your personal mission statement, part of your value statement, part of who you are as a human being is coming through in the relentless pursuit of justice. And then I hear the great practice blending those two things together, which is total alignment of your value system. So congratulations on that. A lot of lawyers don't get to experience that quite the way you do, having passion, purpose, and practice align. Very well done, man. Very, very well done.
Appreciate it.
Last question. If you could go back and talk to yourself as soon as you walked into that windowless office after leaving the corner office and 10 people on your support team, what is the major piece of advice would you give old Eric?
Yeah. So what I would do over again is, if I was sitting in that office, I would definitely tell myself to really post a lot of what you're up to and what your plan is on Facebook. And I know it's kind of a very simple thing, but Facebook is a platform that's been around for 20 years. It's a group of people that, it's unlike Instagram or TikTok, where they may be random people that have never met you before. These are close friends, family members, colleagues. Let the world know what you're doing. That's a group of people that really want to help and support you. They know, they like, they trust you. And if I can go back in time, I would have spent, and I should do it today, is just spend more time letting people know what you're up to, your business, the type of cases you take, the wins that you have. Even if it's just a short thing, once a day, once every other day, just to kind of let everyone know. I think it's a huge thing. You're going to be wooed by, I spent so much money on search engine optimization people. I've spent so much money on pay-per-click, just huge amounts of money, where if I would have just spent the effort of focusing on a group of people that already know you, it could have catapulted me even further or faster. You know, I don't regret. I had to learn, you know, some of the hard way of doing all those things, but I think you can bypass and save yourself time. There's a lot of snake oil people for internet digital marketing out there. They're going to come after you on LinkedIn. They're going to come after you on other platforms, and don't waste your time. Just post on Facebook what you're up to.
I love it. Simple, practical, straightforward. I love it. Anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, listen, like I said, I really appreciate you having me on here. The Atticus family is unbelievable. I've been working with them for years, even with my prior firm. I plan to continue to work with them, and you guys just have you have a different, in my opinion, a much more traditional way of growing a practice and knowing all the ins and outs. And really, I think your focus on the traditional side of stuff of building relationships, of having the top 20, of having the farm team is is such a huge advantage to someone who's running a business and growing their law firm. Such a huge advantage.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. I appreciate it. Really, it's a hats off to our founders, Mark and Sean, and all the practice advisors like Patrick and Lori, who've worked really hard and studying for the past 35 years, top performers, and they look at what works and what doesn't work. And you just keep paying attention to the best practices. The great thing about core relationship development, like you have, like how you're focused, is that Google can change an algorithm. Instagram, all the social media platforms can shift, but the great relationships that you've developed won't. You have to mess those up. And generally speaking, most lawyers, if they invest the time quite the way you have, will build a phenomenal practice. But more importantly, one of the things I love from doing the work of building a referral community is the great friendships that I've developed. And I have some really, really great friends that I first marketed to, and then we developed a great relationship like you have, and we've developed a very, very tight friendship. And that, to me, at the end of the day, after I sold a practice, um, I kept those friendships. And those friendships, to me now, as I look back, are far more valuable than any amount of money I made from those relationships. It's really remarkable to me as I think about it. But that's part of my great life journey. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your advice and your wisdom. And congratulations on the success. You totally deserve it. You've earned everything. And I'm very, very, very honored to have you here and have you part of the Atticus community.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining this week's episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Please tune in weekly to get the next episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, and don't hesitate to share it with a friend who you think this episode could help. With that, thanks, and I hope you enjoy next week's episode.